Democrats in New York are threatening to redraw congressional maps if Republicans in Texas succeed with redistricting there during a special session. Texas Governor Greg Abbott added the item to the agenda at the urging of President Trump's team, who have suggested that Republicans could add as many as 5 seats in next year's midterms. California Governor Gavin Newsom has also floated changing the state's lines in response to those redistricting efforts in Texas.
Let's have real talk about this, okay? The Texas legislature already gerrymandered the map in Texas. Okay, everybody needs to understand this. The Texas legislature gerrymandered the map after the 2010 census came out and should have given more Hispanic voting rights and didn't. It then further gerrymandered the map when it redrew them in 2021. So what we are looking at now, the maps that are in place today, are extreme gerrymandered maps. They are, in fact, illegal maps. I know that because my law firm and I are suing Texas over the existing maps as illegal. What the state of Texas now wants to do, and is bowing and scraping to Donald Trump to do, is to take a obscenely gerrymandered map and make it even more obscenely gerrymandered. They want to re-gerrymander the gerrymander. They want to take a map that already violates the law and squeeze another 4 to 5 seats out of it because they don't care about the law. With respect to how Democrats react, look, this is going to be popular with some people and very unpopular with others. But here is the straight truth. The Republicans hate me because I fight hard. And it is time that we all fight hard. So I am for... If the Republicans say they're going to gain 5 seats in Texas, I say we gain 30 seats in New York, in California,
there you go.
In Virginia when that election is over in the midterm, in Colorado. Like, I could go on and on and list states.
I'm old enough to remember how you ignored the voices of people during the last redistricting. I'm old enough to remember that we were assured that we would have our own map done from the Texas House, yet we didn't. Instead, we took the Texas Senate map. I'm old enough to remember that we were assured that we would have 2 new seats, one in the DFW area and one in the Harris-Fort Bend area. I am old enough to remember that we acknowledged that the Latino community absolutely was entitled to another seat under the Voting Rights Act. I am old enough to remember when we fought the current maps because while 95% of the growth was due to people of color, not only did they create 2 new Anglo-majority seats that are approximately 766,000 people each, y'all paired the 9th and 18th congressional districts and we had to fight to unpair them. I am old enough to remember that I testified in court about a month ago and the state took the position that they didn't consider race when they created the maps that we're currently sitting under. I am old enough to remember that this legislature has consistently been found to be intentionally racially discriminatory in the drawing of its maps ever since the Voting Rights Act was enacted. I am also old enough to remember that it was a great Texan that signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965 into law. So,
please finish your testimony.
Yes, to comply with the Voting Rights Act, we should have 60% of the seats that allow people of color to elect their representatives. That would be 24 seats. Instead, we currently only have 14. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. I am asking you, in the words of MLK, where will you stand?
Thank you for your testimony.
The Attorney General has singled out 4 congressional districts, all of whom are represented by people of color. The co-chair is eminently correct. This is about racism. It is about people of color being denied the opportunity to have representation.
Ultimately, what we need in this state are people that have the cojones to actually go forward and call this stuff out. Because what you guys have done to this state is cataclysmically horrific. And I think that everybody across the nation should be able to go and look at what you guys have done. So I look forward to Kathy Hochul getting rid of you guys as Republican friends. I look forward to Phil Murphy getting rid of your Republican friends. I look forward to Wes Moore doing the same thing. I think Andy Harris
Please finish
had
your
a long
testimony.
congressional career. He's about to be done too. All of them will be done. And you can thank your failed, senile, dilapidated, Epstein partying with president for all of the work that we're about to do to every single one of you.
Thank you for your testimony.
You did this, you caused this, and this is the
witnesses-
result of you and your work. No, I'm not going to finish.
Witness's
Because
time has
ultimately,
expired.
I'm not finished. Because ultimately, who doesn't have a say in this are the people of this state, the 40 million people that you guys just kicked
Witness
off
will come to
healthcare,
order.
The people of this state.
The witness
that are now
does
gonna
not-
have
the
to
witness
go
is not
without SNAP
recognized.
As a result of what you guys have done, this is a result of your policies. And you have no shame.
Okay.
You have no shame. None.
The witness-
Zero.
the witness-
You have no shame
Nope.
for what you've done. And I think that we all should be standing up here and signing up.
Just cut off his mic. Cut off his mic. Okay. That the gentleman will come to order. We will maintain decorum. The gentleman will be reminded one last time. The gentleman will come to order immediately.
This is not
All right. The sergeants are directed to remove the gentleman from the room.
History will not remember you kindly for what you have done. They will not. As a matter of fact, history might not remember you at all because of what you have done. It's horrific.
The gentleman will be removed.
Shame. You need to have shame. History will not remember you for what you have done. It is a shame.
Members and members of the public. Oh.
Horrific for what you have done. You should all be ashamed.
Mr. Speaker, in 2010, California voters overwhelmingly voted to establish a Citizens Redistricting Commission. The voters said, we want to take the process of drawing district lines out of the hands of politicians. They said that voters should choose their politicians. Politicians shouldn't choose their voters. And that commission has drawn our district lines through the last 2 rounds of redistricting. And yet now, the governor of California has announced a plan to abolish the Citizens Redistricting Commission and to seize its powers for himself. He initially proposed simply ignoring the commission, ignoring the Constitution, and overriding his maps with those that he and the legislature drew. But apparently someone told him that that would get immediately struck down in court. So now what they are plotting is a special election where they will use confusing ballot language and other means of deception to try to convince voters, to fool voters, into dismantling the very independent commission that they recently established. And the point of this is that the governor would like to reduce the representation of Republicans in Congress in our state to 3 members out of 52, so that Republicans will hold 6% of the seats, even though Republicans typically get over 40% of the vote in statewide elections. It could be the single most egregious act of corruption in the history of our state. And you don't need to take my word for that. You can take the word of Common Cause, which is a group that typically almost always aligns with Democrats on elections and voting issues, whose executive director said, quote, point blank, it is a dangerous move. Or you can take the words of Patricia Sine, who is a Democrat serving on the Citizens Redistricting Commission, who said the very purpose of the state's independent redistricting commission is to protect voters from partisan power grabs like this. If this were to succeed, it would set a dangerous precedent for suppressing voters across the nation. Mr. Speaker, this is a moment for every Californian and every American of decency, regardless of party affiliation, to speak out against the abject corruption that our governor is attempting.
Well, look, to be honest, I don't love what's going on in Texas either, but it is very different than what's happening in California, because California has an independent commission that has been set up by voters. And so for the governor to say that he's going to ignore that or try to override it or circumvent it, that is directly defying the will of California voters, who have said by an overwhelming majority that they want this process to be nonpartisan, that voters ought to pick politicians. It shouldn't be the other way around with politicians picking their voters. But what's more, even if you look at the most aggressive plan that's being put forward in California, in Texas, that would still leave the Democrats with about a quarter of the seats over there, whereas what they're proposing in California is to reduce the representation of Republicans to 6% in a state that is already a one-party state, with the Democrats having a super-duper majority in the legislature, holding the governor's office and every other statewide office. So it would be eliminating any semblance whatsoever of checks and balances in our state.
So, Congressman Kiley, what do you think will happen in your state of California? Do you think Governor Newsom will pull off, as you said, redistricting based on his map?
Well, Newsom will do whatever he thinks works to his own advantage.
As we creep closer and closer to the 2026 midterms, Republicans are realizing that not only are their policies wildly unpopular, but Donald Trump is becoming increasingly unpopular and tanking their chances at victory. And so, gerrymandering is becoming just another one of their outlets to increase their chances to win any of these races at all. Donald Trump has effectively broken every single last one of his campaign promises. And also the big beautiful bill, which rips away health care from tens of millions of people, gives a tax break to the wealthiest people in this country. All the cuts that he made to key programs that people rely on, not just if they're in a tough spot, but just organizations like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which guards against people getting played and scammed by financial institutions. But also, again, Trump and this Epstein mess is really tanking his just power and stranglehold over the electorate, as more and more people, especially as recent polling has shown, that with the age demographic of 18 to 29, that's seen a 27-point dip just since Inauguration Day. So he's losing people around the edges who aren't part of that, just staunch cult group. The people who aren't a part of that staunch cult, he's losing them more and more. So what Democrats really need to do is bite down. Democrats are also suffering a lot of losses. Democrats are historically unpopular right now. So this is the opportunity to differentiate themselves from Donald Trump, not just be the Trump is bad machine, but also to highlight what their policy positions are. Are you trying to raise people's minimum wage? Are you trying to increase access to health care? Are you trying to make education cheaper? What are you going to do about people's debt? That was a strong selling point for Biden in his 2020 campaign. He didn't follow through on that. He wasn't able to, and he didn't really fight as hard as he should have. But these are the types of things that'll really get people on board. So what the Democrats need to do is get serious, run better candidates. We need to push for better candidates. And then really shouldn't be an issue beating these people in the midterms and 2028.